dong 6 times and that one gone. Then we got a chicken stock in the kitchen frozen yet.
Please stand for a pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Where's that coming up on YouTube then?
It's not coming up yet?
I don't see it, I keep recording in progress.
Let's see if it's on. It should be.
Thank you everyone for being here and those watching. We need to wait for him to make sure that's working. No technical difficulty here.
Kim, it says we're live on there. It's a like 30-second or so delay, but
Okay, and let's see. Like refresh and it pops up, but it's popping up the one from 1024. At City of Hermann. On you-
see if I can get to it here real quick, Kim.
Okay.
Isn't technology wonderful?
Usually it pops right up.
It's the snow flurries.
Mine's working, Kim. I've got it on my phone here.
Okay, so I'm on YouTube, and then I type in City of Hermann, Missouri.
She's not going to the link.
Yeah, if you just type in there City of Hermann Mo and then click on the channel itself, it'll be the first thing that pops up. It'll have a little red live in the corner. Should be the first one there.
She's not doing it through the email link.
It'll be that.
The Zoom, yeah, but I don't know about the live stream.
Yeah, I'm not doing this through Zoom. I'm talking about the live stream, the YouTube. Oh, here we go. Now it just popped up.
Good, good.
Perfect.
Okay, we're good to
Oh,
go?
now
Everything good, Kim?
We're good to go? We got lots to do.
yes.
Okay.
Okay, we have a lot of public hearings. I'm
Yes,
going to turn the floor over to Mr. Polite.
Good to go.
Okay, Kim, a few different transcripts this evening, so we'll go ahead and go on the record on the first one. And we'll call the hearing to order at 7:05 p.m. this 14th day of November 2022. Hearing to conduct, or is conducted to consider a request to rezone property owned by Aaron Detweiler and Alexandria Lane Detweiler, consisting of the south part of lots 18 and 20 and all of lot 22 at 212 East 6th Street, currently zoned R1 single-family residential to R2 two-family residential. The city's Planning and Zoning Commission considered the application and on motion duly made, second, and it passed, voted to recommend the request, or recommend this rezoning. This hearing is also conducted to consider a conditional use permit for Aaron Detweiler and Alexandria Lane Detweiler to operate an owner-unoccupied guest house at 212 East 6th Street in the R2 two-family residential district, of course contingent on the passage of the rezoning request. This is indicated as two separate hearings or items on the agenda, but it concerns the same people and the same property, so we'll just do it here with this one hearing and on one transcript. Again, the Planning and Zoning Commission passed a motion to recommend the conditional use permit be approved. At least 15 days notice of the time and place of the hearing was published in the paper. When the hearing is concluded, the board shall provide its decision on the application within 15 days and make findings as to whether the special requirements for a conditional use permit have been satisfied. According to our municipal code, the board may impose conditions on the permit to ensure the use will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. The use will not be injurious to the use and enjoyment of the neighbor's property, that there will be adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities, The use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of surrounding properties, and the use will not cause traffic congestion or significantly burden the requirements for public services, and the use will not result in a substantial increase in potential or real fire hazards. The board may grant a conditional use permit for such a period of time as it finds to be in the public interest. This hearing is being conducted on the record and a transcript is being prepared. If there are any documents the applicant desires the board to rely on, the applicant is invited to submit those as exhibits. If they have any witnesses whom they desire to speak, this will be allowed. And if the applicants are represented by an attorney whom they desire to speak on their behalf, this also will be allowed. The board may ask for testimony from others present in the room who are interested in the matter. Particularly, the board would be interested to hear if anyone has anything to say about the factors described above, either positive or negative. The mayor reserves the right to limit each speaker's time. At the conclusion of all testimony and comments, the board may deliberate and vote, and whether this application is approved or denied is carried by a vote of the majority of the board members who are present this evening. And we have some exhibits here that we'll mention for the record. Exhibit 1 is an application to change zoning as R2. Exhibit 2 is a letter from the applicants that went along with the application. Exhibit 3 is an affidavit of publication from the newspaper. Exhibit 4 is a copy of the actual notice from the newspaper. Exhibit 5 are planning and zoning minutes from October 5th, 2022, with the motion highlighted to go ahead and recommend rezoning to R2. Exhibit 6 is a copy of the city's planning and zoning map for this area. Exhibit 7 is a list of the people to whom actual notice was sent for this hearing. Exhibit 8 is an aerial photo of the area. Exhibit 9 is the entire municipal code of the city of Hermann, Missouri. Exhibit 10 is the conditional use permit application. And Exhibit 11 is the affidavit of publication with respect to the conditional use permit. And Exhibit 12 is the notice of public hearing with respect to the conditional use permit. And Exhibit 13 is the list of people to whom actual notice was mailed. Mayor Cox, do you agree to accept these exhibits into the record?
Yes, sir.
And if our applicant is here, you may speak.
Hi,
Good evening.
I'm Alexandria. Erin couldn't be here today, so it's just me. I just had the property checked today by Bob Sitton right before I came in. I had 4 things that I needed. Is that something I should be sharing with you guys? Just 4 small things, a couple fire extinguishers, a little sign with the address, and contact number placed somewhere publicly. Otherwise, he said it looked great. So he told me to bring that up at the meeting if I wanted to, and I was told to get it inspected by him prior to coming, correct? Manager-wise, we have a manager picked and approved. We're going with Lainey Lanzau, who works over at Laney's Espresso in town. She's a good friend of ours. We're wanting to do this just as a thing that we can run out to friends. At this point, I have no real interest in doing Airbnb because I'm not wanting a party in my house that we use all the time. But we're wanting to be able to rent it out to couples once in a while when we're not there, just to be able to have it used in a very private spot. I assume everybody is familiar with the space, maybe? Yep. Yeah. So I guess if there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer anything or concerns.
Anybody have any questions?
Do not.
You all good?
We'll make one comment again on this conditional use permit, that would be for 1 year instead of indefinite. 'Cause
That's the way the rest of them are all set up, correct?
Yes.
Annual.
Yeah, it'll be an annual renewal.
Yeah, annual renewal.
Do you do the whole process every year? The zoning meeting and then the alternate?
No, just once a year, every year you have to renew. Yeah.
I mean, I love this. This doesn't make me feel
You'll get a
awkward
letter.
at all.
You'll get a letter and it's just basically make sure you're being a good girl.
Oh, you meant woman? I hear you. Yes. Okay.
All right, if not, do I have a motion to,
Are there any comments from the public, either
thank you.
pro or con? There appears to be none, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Missed that part. Okay, now do I have a motion?
I move to approve her application as long as she does the 4 things that Mr. Sitton said she needed to do, and that it be a 1-year renewal.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
The worst, did you,
Did you include rezoning of it also?
Just saying to Dave, no, they did not.
So what she's mentioning is there's actually 2 things before you this evening, and we're still on the record. One is actually a request to rezone the property from R1 to R2. And then also to provide the conditional use permit. So if you could entertain a motion for the rezoning part of this, then we're good.
okay.
I move to rezone from R1 to R2.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? Rezoning's been approved. Thank you.
So we can go off the record on the Detweiler matter. And then go on the record regarding the Hammer property annexation hearing. And this hearing is being called to order at approximately 7:15 on this 14th day of November 2022. It's conducted to consider the voluntary annexation of certain property owned by the Terry and Peggy Hammer Trusts. Some background: a Missouri statute provides the governing body of a city may annex unincorporated areas that are contiguous and compact to the existing corporate limits. When the city receives a petition requesting annexation and signed by the owners, and it's presented to the city, the governing body shall hold a public hearing concerning the matter. At this hearing, any interested person may present evidence regarding the proposed annexation. If after holding the hearing, the governing body of the city determines the annexation is reasonable and necessary for the proper development of the city, and that the city has the ability to furnish normal municipal services to the area within a reasonable time, it may annex the territory by ordinance without further action. If there is a written objection to the proposed annexation filed with the governing body not later than 14 days after this public hearing by at least 5% of the qualified voters of the entire city, then the city needs to follow some other procedures to try to annex this property. But if no annexation or objection is filed, then the city can extend its limits by ordinance to include this territory. The city did receive an annexation petition from Mr. and Mrs. Hammer, and they and city staff have further negotiated a proposed annexation agreement to provide that if the property is annexed, it's proposed that it be zoned R3 multiple family residential, that the 8 separate units in the development be able to be rented on a long-term or short-term basis, including nightly as a B&B or guest house, that the city will construct and install a sewer main line and a gas main, an electrical primary conduit, and a water tap commencing at the intersection of West 9th, the West 9th Street Alley and Wine Street, extending generally 1,000 feet west. The applicant will pay the city the sum of $25,000 as the applicant's contribution towards these development costs, and the applicant will also assist the city in obtaining the proper easements for these utilities. The city's Planning and Zoning Commission considered the zoning portion of this and made a motion and approved a motion to approve the R3 zoning aspect of this application and to recommend a conditional use permit be provided for the desired short-term rentals. Notice of this hearing was duly published in the newspaper, and again, according to code, with respect to the granting or denying of a conditional use permit, the city should consider whether the use will be detrimental to public health, safety, morals, comfort, or welfare, whether it will injure the use and enjoyment of neighboring properties, whether there will be adequate utilities, access roads, drainage, and other facilities, that the use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding properties, the use will not cause traffic congestion, and it will not result in a substantial increase in potential or real fire hazards. The board may grant a conditional use permit for such a period of time as it finds to be in the public interest. This hearing is conducted on the record and a transcript is being prepared. The applicants may present their case. They may submit documents as exhibits. They may have witnesses speak, and they may have an attorney to speak on their behalf. The board will ask for testimony from others present in the room interested in the matter to hear if anyone has anything to say about the factors described above, either positive or negative. The mayor reserves the right to limit each speaker's time. And then at the conclusion, there will be a vote. A majority of the board that's here will vote on the matter. We have some exhibits, and Exhibit 1 is the application for voluntary annexation. And Exhibit 2 is the proposed annexation agreement that has some of the details that I just mentioned. And Exhibit 3 is an aerial photo showing the property to be annexed and some of the neighboring properties. Exhibit 4 is an affidavit of publication from the newspaper. Exhibit 5 is a copy of the actual notice of public hearing that was published. And Exhibit 6 is the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes from October 19, 2022. And Exhibit 7 is the entire Code of Ordinances of the City of Hermann, Missouri. Mayor Cox, do you agree to accept these exhibits into the record?
Yes, sir.
And I know Mr. Hammer's here if you'd like to speak a little about your project.
Mayor Cox, Board of Aldermen, thank you very much for giving Peggy and I this hearing tonight. We bought Denver's property and immediately had Kim and Nick Godad come up and look at it with the goal of trying to do some housing. It's overstating the obvious, we all know we need housing in Hermann. The most immediate need is sewer, because when Denver built his house back in the 80s, they put a straight pipe under Sand Plant Road there's a septic tank and that's it. And it just drains down into the field below. If any of you are familiar with our track record since we've been in Hermann, we're upscale, that's what we do. We've built a number of things with partners on 13th Street, 2 apartment houses. We opened the street. We've run a lot of apartments for rent. And then we got in the bed and breakfast business. Our intent is to take what's basically there, which is roughly a 75-foot by 55-foot piece of concrete that has footing, foundation, and a garage. About 2/3 of it has a basement. And the thought was, the reason we say 8 is in the last couple years, several of our employees we've determined are homeless. One of them was actually living in a tent down by the river. And our intent, and I've talked to your building inspector, we think there's a way with window wells to create 2 rather small housing units down there, each with 2 bedrooms, because most of the people we're employing who are homeless tend to be moms with a small child. So that's what would be in the basement unit. Our hope is to rent all 6 on an annual basis. We're really not interested in expanding the B&B business. I personally think by everything being ADA on the first floor that we'll be able to rent those out to seniors. My concern is if we end up after a couple of months failing to rent all of the 6 on the top, we've asked for a conditional use permit to give us that option. It is nothing that we're looking forward to and we're hoping. But as, again, everybody in the room understands, building costs have escalated way beyond $200 a square foot. And when you're looking at something with, just take the top units that are 6,000 square feet, and you can do the math and see where you're at in terms of rent. And I think once you get significantly above $1,000 a month, then there's that chance. So I came to the city asking about what a connection fee would be. Because what I assumed was we would stay in the county, run the sewer line down Sand Plant Road and connect, I don't know if you're familiar with the area, but where Jerry Rogers has a little playhouse, that's where the alley is and that's where the sewer is. And that's what I thought we would do. It was suggested that maybe we consider annexation to not just make this something that would be good for Peggy and I, but also to be good in the sense that it would allow the utilities to go up Sand Plant Road so that if other people decided that they wanted to do something in the future to add more residential, that could happen. The city did some studies on the costs, and I think we're very good with the 25,000. And so I don't come here asking for something for nothing. I'm not telling you this is a get-rich-quick scheme, but I think we have the potential here to take what was a disaster with Denver's fire and take a piece of property that's adjacent to the city and create 6 residential units that I hope we can use to rent to some school teachers and some people who want to live here. So that's what we're looking for. What kind of questions do you have?
Anyone have any questions?
So the conditional use permit is only for if you would need it for the short term?
Yeah, and I think we'll know this pretty soon, and I'm hopeful. Frankly, if we were going to do more B&B units, we have much better places to do it. I mean, it's not in our interest. But I'm a business guy, and agreeing to annexation means agreeing to the rules. And we have a rather extensive track record. And check and see how many rules we've broken. We're just not those kind of folks. And we will never be those kind of folks. So we asked for it because I want to cover that contingency. But it is certainly not our intent. And like I said, if we want to build more B&B units, we have plenty of other places to do it. And we could do it more efficaciously, but that's not what we're here. We desperately need housing in this town. Our schools and all of our employers are suffering. And we can't do it all, but we can start with this. And if this is successful, and it works, then I hope I'm coming to you again for something else somewhere else. Because I think talk is cheap in Hermann. And certainly everybody sitting here on the board knows that. But if you look at what Peggy and I do, and what I hope you see is we bring thoughtfulness, but we also bring resources. So what we say we're going to do, we do. And we don't cut costs. And I'm not the kind of person that's going to try to run anything, even a single family, through a pipe underneath Sand Plant Road. That's just not my thing.
Okay, is there any comments or Anyone in the audience have anything? Comments, questions? Okay. Thanks, Terry.
Thank you very much.
We're all clear. Do I have a
So
motion?
can I just do the P and Z recommendation, just so you guys are clear, was that they were recommending rezoning to R3 classification with the initial, an initial 2-year conditional use permit. If the Board of Aldermen agreed with the annexation. And then after, I think that was because of the construction time, is that correct? So the first one, they were suggesting do 2 years, and then after that, if you all wanted to change it back to annual like everyone else, you could decide at that time.
Agreeable with everyone?
I didn't see the conditional use permit, our application in our book.
There isn't one. It was more or less a negotiated deal. I've had many emails back and forth with Mr. Hammer's attorney, and I think planning and zoning went along with the concept of you have to jump through these hoops with respect to planning and zoning, Board of Aldermen, approval of zoning and all that. Why not allow the conditional use aspect of it to sort of come along for the ride rather than annex them R3 and then make them file a separate $300 application and go through that. So that's, in this is a case we haven't had in over 10 years, I guess, which is an annexation agreement document that sets forth what the zoning and conditional use permit parameters will be. And that'll come up for a vote still at another meeting to actually pass an ordinance to sign that agreement and actually bring the property in.
You good with that?
I'm good.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the annexation?
I move to approve the annexation and the conditional use permit for 2 years. Am I doing it right? Okay.
And R3.
And R3.
I have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, Kim, so we'll go off the record on that matter. And then the next one on the agenda, if we can go on the record for a hearing on the City Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendations for amendments to zoning ordinances. And this hearing is called to order at 7:30 p.m. on this 14th day of November 22. And it is conducted to consider a request to amend certain zoning code sections. And it's section 420-100 and 420-110 regarding main dwellings. Section 420-040 addressing recreational vehicles for living and parked out on lawns. Section 420-010 and 420-090 dealing with some definitions for uses in the agricultural district. Section 420.830C, 420-140C, 420-150D, and 420-100. Those four are really just some sort of housekeeping, fix some typos that had been in our prior ordinance, well, in our current ordinance that planning and zoning identified. And so, the Planning and Zoning Commission did vote to recommend these amendments. A notice of time and place of this hearing was duly published in the newspaper. The board again may ask for testimony from those present in the room interested in the matter, either positive or negative. And then, at the conclusion of all testimony, the board may deliberate and vote. And we have exhibits which have been proposed. Exhibit 1 will be our drafts of actual ordinances to address these matters that I have just described and that are on the agenda. Exhibit 2 would be the affidavit of publication from the Advertiser Courier newspaper. Exhibit 3 would be the notice of public hearing from the paper. And Exhibit 4 would be the entire municipal code of the city of Hermann. Mayor Cox, do you agree to accept these exhibits into the record?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so really what I just said is what it is. For months, literally many meetings, planning and zoning looked at these ordinances, especially the top 3 or 4 here, and we tweaked and reviewed and tweaked, and at a recent planning and zoning meeting, they agreed that the language in all of these is the way they want it and would recommend to you guys. So we would have this hearing, if it's okay with you, and we pass the motion, then these would all come up at the next meeting as bills to pass as ordinances to actually change the code.
Anybody have any questions?
I do have one question. As far as ordinance 420.830, what is the thinking behind changing the 2-year? I guess it's mostly 2-year words. Why take out the 2-year application?
Oh,
Sorry, should have.
2-year, no subsequent applications or additional applications filed within 2 years of each other. Is that one you're talking about? Dolores, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but
No, you can address it. It was something that I think the P&Z and you also felt that it was overburdensome to the people and really not necessary.
Okay.
It wasn't any benefit, we felt. Is that correct, Dave?
that was put in the code for one property owner in town.
Okay.
Yes.
And I don't think that other than that one property owner, we've had people come multiple times, especially within 2 years, to request and re-request rezonings. And frankly, my feeling is if somebody wants to request rezoning and pay the fee and let them.
Okay.
I think the city's on better legal footing that way.
Okay.
And all the other changes, we did, as Dave said, the P&Z did discuss these probably over the last year, and we do recommend the changes strongly. It is an improvement.
Anyone else have any comments? Okay, need a motion to approve that?
Can we approve them all at one time, or?
Yes.
I'll make the motion to approve the changes in the request for planning and zoning on the ordinances we just discussed.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Okay.
All right, so Kim, we can go off the record on that matter. And then start a new record. Hearing for rezoning of 3rd Street properties. And this hearing is called at 7:38 p.m., November 14, 2022. Here at the Board of Aldermen meeting room at Hermann City Hall. And it is concerning a request to rezone the following lots along the 200 block of East 3rd Street from R1 Single Family Residential to R2 Two Family Residential. Stephen and Linda Labrell at 221 East 3rd Street, the west half of Lot 27. Michael and Jane Cantrell at 219 East 3rd Street, the east half of Lot 25. Michael Bush at 208 East 3rd Street, which is Lot 22. Chris and Robin Zettel at 212 East 3rd Street, the west half of Lot 24. Todd and Kimberly Lensing at 214 East 3rd Street, the east half of Lot 24. Callista, Stephen, and Linda Labrell at 222 East 3rd Street, the east half of Lot 28. Alverna W. Cope at 217 East 3rd Street, the west half of Lot 25. And City of Hermann vacant lots, these are lots owned by the city, the west half of Lot 28 and lots 30 and 32. And these requests were sort of grouped together and dealt with together. So I'm going to go on to the next item on the agenda. And if you find it appropriate, you can pass motions to approve all these things. There's also a request to rezone the following lots along the 200 block of East 3rd from R1 single family to C1 general commercial. Daniel Rugen-Johann at 213 East 3rd Street, Lot 23. James and Cecily Borzillo at 209 East 3rd Street, Lot 21. Velacopa LLC, Colleen Murphy at 204 East 3rd Street, Lot 20. HLM Hospitality LLC at 209 Schiller Street, part of the north half of Lot 19. And Michael and Jennifer Davis at 215 Schiller, the south and east part of Lot 19. Proper notice of this hearing was provided, and the applicants, again, will have an opportunity to present their case. They may submit documents as exhibits. They may have witnesses speak on their behalf, and or they may have an attorney representing them speak on their behalf. Of course, the board can ask questions and deliberate and ask for testimony from others present in the room. The mayor reserves the right to limit each speaker's time. And at the conclusion of all testimony, submission of exhibits and comments, the board may deliberate and then vote, and whether it's approved or denied is carried by a vote of the majority of the board members who are present this evening. And so, with respect to exhibits, I'll just group together as Exhibit 1 all of the applications for change of zoning from the R1 to the R2. List of the people within the 200 block of East 3rd Street, pardon me, within 185 feet of the 200 block of East 3rd Street. Everybody who received the notice. And is Exhibit 4, the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes, where the Planning and Zoning Commission recommended approval of the request. Exhibit 5, affidavit of publication. Exhibit 6, copy of the notice of public hearing. Exhibit 7, the entire municipal code of ordinances of the city of Hermann, Missouri. And Exhibit 8, again, a group of applications for change of zoning that were submitted. And again, Exhibit 9, a list of the people, I'm sorry, that's the same exhibit as before, so we don't have to include that again. A list of people that have been sent actual notice. Is that the same list? Yeah. And again, the same meeting minutes, which we've already offered. Exhibit 9 would be an affidavit of publication from the Advertiser Courier. And that should do it. Mayor, do you agree to accept these exhibits into the record?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are the applicants here or somebody who'd like to speak on behalf of the applicants?
I will. Evening, everybody. My name is Emily Calla. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Engelmeyer and Cassani. Tim Engelmeyer was in the planning and zoning meetings, but he is in O'Fallon tonight accepting their judicial posting, so I am here with you all tonight. For the interest of keeping just a clean record of everything, I do want to make it clear that we have been expressly charged with assisting with the rezoning on 221 East 3rd, 222 East 3rd, 219 East 3rd, 208 East 3rd, 212 East 3rd, 214 East 3rd, 209 East 3rd, 213 East 3rd, and 204 East 3rd. I only state that because there were a couple properties, both with the request from R1 to R2 and then R1 to C1, that I think were added on, but in my mind, we have absolutely no objection to that. It actually makes sense that the whole block should be included in this rezoning change. Just to give you guys some background, the property owners did initially come to the Planning and Zoning Commission and ask them for this change, and P&Z sent them back and said, we want you to be a little bit more targeted in what you're doing, and that is why they got in touch with Tim and I, so that some of these properties are not necessarily adequate to go commercial, so the whole block does not need to go to commercial, and some of these properties do want a conditional use permit, some may want it in the future. And so what you're seeing tonight and what P&Z already approved is that you're having many of the properties go R1 to R2. Mr. and Mrs. Labrelle's properties are the only ones that filed conditional use permits, so they are the only ones that are requesting the ability to turn those properties into guest house right away. And then there were 3 properties that we represent, but again, a few more that would like to go up to commercial. We had a lovely PowerPoint that we put on for planning and zoning, but in the interest of time, I'm not going to subject you all to that again. I would just state that at this time, that 200 block of 3rd Street is kind of nestled right in the heart of the tourism sphere of what Hermann is becoming. Our clients and the property owners down there just want to be able to increase their property values. They want to be able to keep pace with the changing trends within the neighborhood. They want to be able to keep pace with Hermann and how it's changing, but they also want to do it in a respectful way. Like I said, there's only 1 property owner and 2 properties that have submitted the conditional use permits, and that is for 221 East 3rd and 222 East 3rd. Everybody else is going R1 to R2. Now, the 3 properties that are asking to switch to commercial, and the additional ones I think that the city has added, are the properties that are on the, what I believe would be far east of that 200 blocks, so they're the ones that are up against Schiller. So we're not going to have piecemeal. What you're going to see is, let's see, 204 East 3rd, which is right adjacent to a commercial property, and then right across the street, 209 and 213. So you're taking the commercial that already exists at, is it Lionheart Whiskey, and the barbershop or the cigar barbershop that's there, and just pushing the commercial just a little bit in, and then the rest will be R2 all the way down the street. Again, we're not asking to change the look or feel, we're just trying to keep pace with the changing trends in Hermann. And on a personal note, I was actually here a week and a half ago with friends. Hermann is lovely, people love Hermann. It is a wonderful place. What you guys are doing and creating in the heart of Missouri is beautiful. A lot of people come down here and make some really amazing memories. So I was excited to be a part of this and to come back on this. So that's kind of generally what I have to say. I can answer any questions, and in addition, the Labrelles are here and Dan Brugajan is here, so they can also speak to specifics if anybody has questions.
Y'all have questions?
I'm happy to see the entire block being
Yes.
cohesive, not piecemealing single lots and properties. Do any of the property owners that are requesting from R1 to R2, do they have any aspirations of going commercial?
So I have spoken to everybody on the phone and have their authority to be speaking on their behalf. Nobody at this time has concrete plans for it. I think that the thinking was that if that's the general trend, they're more likely to increase their property values if they can keep pace with everything else. But at this time, nobody else wanted to apply for one, and I don't foresee it. It's kind of an indefinite maybe kind of thing.
The only question I have, 209, 204, that's right behind the properties that are on Schiller Street. The 213, that's farther down. that wants to be commercial. So that's not really encroached in the Schiller Street grouping.
So, and that's Dan Bergejon's property, so he can also speak to that. I would say, so 209 and 213 are right next to each other, and I have like pictures that we had taken.
Oh, I know where they're at.
Okay.
I was just
Yeah, they share a
questioning why
garage.
that one's going farther down. I mean,
So they 209 and 213 share a garage. I would say what makes 213 special is that when it was built and developed originally, it's always been multifamily housing, kind of commercial anyways. And then it's my understanding when the city of Hermann, in I believe the 1990s, did their zoning code, that whole block got zoned R1. And so 213 really doesn't fit the R1 standards anyways. And so as a property owner, Mr. Bergejon is kind of stuck because he has a property that has a lot of commercial attributes to it, but as it stands, he cannot use his property that way. And so that's why he's lumped in, but he will flow down the street.
the other problem I see with that property, if it's a commercial, you need parking for commercial, and the way that property sits, there's a house in the front and then there's a building in the rear. There is no parking available except for a couple slots in front of the house. I mean, I don't know what kind of commercial you want to do, but I think that presents a problem.
So I can talk
Yeah.
a couple of these.
I'm just curious, I mean,
So I don't, first of all, thanks for hearing me, Mr. Mayor, Board. Dan Bergejon, I've owned that property for 28 years. My family have owned it since 1935. That's the building we're talking about.
right in the rear.
Yeah, so, I don't have any specific plans, but I need to, as I told the Planning and Zoning Board, I need to do something with this building, because it's really in disrepair. And my initial thoughts, so my grandfather ran his heating and plumbing business out of there, my father did that. So my initial thoughts were, if you could go and rely on foot traffic, and you could have an antique shop in there on the first floor. You could have it as a plumbing shop and have him operate our engineering surveying company, operate out of that, an electric shop operating out of that. There's a lot of things that could be done, but like I said, I haven't specifically targeted that building for anything. The upstairs was a full apartment for 50 years. And the main house sitting in front of that was also a multifamily for part of the time. So, I'm just, as I told the planning board, that, I'm trying to find a way to, fix that building, as well as being respectful with my neighbors, okay? So, that's where I'm at, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Anybody else have any questions?
May I make a comment?
Dolores? Yes, ma'am.
Dave can correct me if I am wrong. There is no off-street parking required in the C1 Historical District. And it's my understanding this building is in that district. So there wouldn't be any off-street parking required.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions?
And as you guys are noticing, again, all these properties and applications have been sort of lumped into these hearings, or this hearing. Certainly, if you see any issues, problems, questions with one particular property and what they want to do, and you want to sort of separate these out or parse one out or something or exclude it from a vote, you can do that, but for the purposes of expediency, we just lump these together, and
No, that's fine.
you can consider them as a group as far as I'm concerned.
Right. And I'm good with that, I just had that. Anybody else?
Before you end, I have a couple more items that, actually, lot 26 on East Third Street is not included in this request. I do not see it anywhere. And I think Gleason's are the ones who own that lot. It's not being requested to be rezoned from R1 to R2. And the other item is on your, I think Davis, your request where you have south and east part of Lot 19. The Board of Aldermen and the Planning and Zoning already approved the south part of Lot 19 to be rezoned commercial way back in March of '21. I don't know if an ordinance was passed to approve that, but that part of it has already been rezoned.
Okay.
It's only that 10-foot strip on the north side of Lot 19 that needs to be considered to be rezoned on the Davis property,
Okay.
if that makes any difference.
Ms. Graham, can I get your opinion from the Planning and Zoning Commission in not including Lot 26? Is that present? Would you have rather that lot been included in this?
It would have been nice for the entire lot to be included in R2, yes. But you're gonna have a lot out there that is
Yeah.
R1.
They did not request to be included, or
I think
it's just an oversight?
They were sent
We've
information.
We've talked to them about it, and they're thinking through it. It may come. I can't
Later
speak.
on.
I can't
Okay.
speak for them.
That's fine. Okay.
They know that the city would like to have that uniform, and we've been talking about it.
Okay, that's fine.
It just
I was
wasn't.
just,
We
thought
didn't
maybe
get
it was an
those.
oversight.
No, I
Those
just
balls
wasn't-
are still in the air right now prior to this, and we couldn't get
Very
it
good.
all.
Can I speak, because I'm still on 6? The only concern we had was it was no benefit to us to rezone our property.
Right.
Because we already have our guest house, we don't need it rezoned. And and I know the city said they'll waive all the fees and everything, so it wouldn't cost us anything. So, as far as I'm concerned, I don't know if you can put it in there now, or if you just want to do it later. That'd be fine with us, as long as it don't cost us anything.
You mean to rezone it to
Right.
R2?
There are no conditional use permit fees, no application fees, no fees whatsoever. Because we don't have to pay for that stuff now, why should we have to run a business and we already run it?
That would be the Board of Aldermen's decision, and Dave would have to make the decision, or somebody, on whether you can add your lot to the rezoning.
I mean, if y'all want to do it later, however y'all want to do it. That was our concern. And we're very busy, if we didn't have time to, we're running 4 or 5 different companies trying to make a living.
So can that be added to this hearing, or do you have to?
Let's put it on our next planning and zoning meeting agenda here in the next month or so, and think more slowly about it.
Okay.
And then bring it here and go ahead and add it then, rather than just do it on the fly here. And make sure we've got our bases covered with respect to notices and who's supposed to get them and
No, that's fine.
publication and all that, yeah.
That's okay.
Okay, is there any other questions, comments?
I do have a question. So
Yes.
you're trying to rezone from R1 to R2?
Yes.
So they can have guest house?
They have to.
Am I following this correctly?
You can have a guest house in an R2 zone,
You
yes.
can have a guest house in R2,
With a conditional use
Wait.
permit, which is the next item on the agenda.
because my son was told he couldn't. When he first started doing his, when he was getting out of the Army, he was told that he could not have a guest house, and y'all shut him down
He's in
for
R1.
a few months.
He's in R1, right? Yeah,
So, okay, so he's going from R1 to R2. Okay, I apologize.
that's okay.
Okay. Anybody else? Y'all, somebody want to make a motion to approve, disapprove, or what do you want to do?
So are we just approving the rezoning for now and then doing the conditional use permit? All right, I move to approve the rezoning of said lots from R1 to R2 and R1 to C1.
Motion's been made to approve the rezoning. Do I have a second?
I will second that.
Motion's made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Okay, Ken, we can go off the record on that matter. And then last, we'll go on the record just for the request submitted by Stephen Labrell for a conditional use permit for an owner unoccupied guest house, or guest houses, at 221 and 222 East 3rd Street, operating in what's just been approved in an R2 two-family residential zone. And so this hearing is being called to order at approximately 8 o'clock on this 14th day of November 2022. The Planning and Zoning Commission passed a motion to recommend the approval of this conditional use permit application. Appropriate time and place of hearing was published in the paper. When this hearing is concluded, the board should provide its decision within 15 days. According to our code, the board should impose or may impose conditions to ensure the use is not detrimental to public health, safety, morals, comfort, or general welfare. The use will not injure the use and enjoyment of the property in the immediate vicinity. There are adequate utilities, roads, drainage, and other necessary facilities. The use will not impede the normal and orderly development and improvement of the surrounding properties. It will not cause traffic congestion, and the requirements for public services will not be strained. And it will not result in a substantial increase in potential or real fire hazards. The board may grant the conditional use permit for such a period of time as it believes is in the city's best interest. This hearing is on the record and a transcript is being prepared. The applicants may present their case. If they have documents they want the board to rely on, they may submit those as exhibits. If they have witnesses whom they desire to speak, this will be allowed. And if they are represented by an attorney whom they desire to speak on their behalf, this will be allowed as well. And then the board may ask for testimony from others present in the room to hear if anyone has anything to say about the factors above, either described above, either positive or negative. And at the conclusion of all testimony and evidence, the board may vote, and a majority of the board members present will carry the vote. And we have some proposed exhibits here. The first is the conditional use permit application. Exhibit 2 is the city's conditional uses checklist for Planning and Zoning Commission, the checklist of the items that Planning and Zoning considers when determining whether conditional use permits are appropriate. And then we have another conditional use permit application. So the first one is for 222 East 3rd Street. The next one's for 221 East 3rd Street. And Exhibit 4 is the checklist for that second property. And then Exhibit 5 is a copy of a portion of the city's zoning map. Exhibit 6 is a list of the people within 185 feet who received actual notice. Exhibit 7 is the notice of public hearing that was duly provided according to law. The next, Exhibit 8, is Planning and Zoning Commission meeting minutes where the application was approved. And Exhibit 9 is the entire municipal code of the city of Hermann. Mayor Cox, do you agree to accept all of these exhibits into the record?
Yes, sir.
All right. And so, again, just for trying to keep this somewhat orderly and expedient, this is just Mr. Labrell requesting the conditional use permit for these two properties. So it was separated out from all the above properties that are seeking rezoning. And so if Ms. Gallagher or somebody would like to speak on this, you may.
Hello again. Yes, so the only properties that were requested for the conditional use permit were 221 and 222 East 3rd Street. These properties are both owned by the Labrells. They are not large properties, they're not planning on turning them into large, like Airbnb party houses or anything by that means. In fact, 221 actually only has 1 bedroom. So it's also worth noting that these properties are a little bit further down the block. They are closer to already existing guest houses. The Librels have already begun work in fixing up these properties, making them attractive on the inside and the outside. They've put significant investment into the properties. They're making the block look nice. And they again, just want to stay on trend with the changing tides down in that specific area of Hermann and be allowed to rent these out as rental properties. And also they can attest that they can fulfill all of the conditional use permit requirements, and there will be enough parking spots per bedroom provided, so that parking will not be an issue with these properties. And I can field any other questions, or Mr. Librel can as well.
Anybody have any questions? You all good? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move to approve the conditional use permits for 221 and 222 East 3rd Street.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made, second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Don, you need to mute yourself.
I'm sorry,
Okay, so we can go ahead then and go off the record on that matter, and that'll conclude our hearings for this evening.
All right. We'll move on. Thank you, everyone. Okay, mayor's report. Only thing I just wanted to say, I'm a little behind on this, but congratulations to the Bearcats. You know, they had a good season, the girls with the volleyball, the track, and the football. Hats off to them. Good job. And the other thing I wanted to say, also thank you to the high school. If you're a veteran, every year the high school puts on a breakfast for the veterans. And if you have not been there, I highly recommend that you go. It's a very nice affair that is put on by the students, and it's just a very nice thing that they do for the veterans. So anyway, that's all I wanted to say thank you to them for that. We'll move on to city administrator.
I'll be brief. An update on the airport. So they removed all the old, they removed all the old asphalt, and the base layer is prepped and ready to go, and then it got cold. So they were planning on asphalting this week, but it has to be 50 degrees for a few days in a row for them to do that. So crossing our fingers that next week that they can get that done. They also discovered some of paving by one of the aprons that we were going to leave there, but they discovered that it was only 2 inches thick and it's supposed to be 4 inches thick. And so they are going to change that out for us. Why this is part of the grant. We can get it done much cheaper than doing it later. So there will be a change order coming your way for the next meeting regarding that. I would make note that the sales tax for this month is $18,000 over the same month last year. And we are up by $37,000 year to date. And let you know, Jesse and I attended the annual Gascony County Transportation meeting at the courthouse with the commissioners and some other cities in the county. And that group recommends our local priorities to MRPC's Transportation Assistance Committee that we call TAC, that you hear us talk about. So the top 2 priorities that Gascony County is going to suggest to MRPC is number 1, safety improvements to the intersection with Highway 100 and Route J, and Hermann sidewalk connectivity to downtown and the new library. So those are going to be the 2 things that we put as our priorities to that group. And lastly, I'll mention the redistricting that we were talking about of the ward boundaries. That has to be addressed every 10 years with the new census data. And the data this time confirmed that we have a greater than 10% variance in the ideal population between the two wards. Corey crunched the numbers, and that variance is actually 21.7%. So we're going to need to move like 117, 118 people from Ward 2 to Ward 1. And so we have everybody out there in TV land as well, announcing that I posted this agenda today to schedule our workshop for this Thursday night, November 17th at 7:00 p.m. And the public hearing on that we will hold at the next Board of Aldermen meeting on November 28th. So come if you're interested.
Okay, thank you. Public Works Director.
I'll be brief as well. You guys had a busy night. So the water and sewer guys have been taking out the sterilization equipment at the lagoons. The recreational season on the Missouri River's over. They finished the summer with perfect marks. I know that that wasn't the case last year, and I'm fairly certain it wasn't the case 2 years prior. So my hat's off to those guys. Darren did a great job getting those guys to really get that thing straightened out this year. The electric department has been kind of running around with a lot of services going on, which is a good thing. And then obviously with the time change, we get a lot of calls on street lights. Everybody notices it when they turn off a little bit earlier now. And then preparations for some upcoming projects as well. The street department's been busy picking up leaves, doing their fall thing with the duty, and then taking care of things for Oktoberfest. They got the Christmas lights up. I'm sure a lot of you guys have seen that. Parks department, same thing, kind of cleaning up leaves, taking care of fall work, tidying up after the RV season, kind of winding down now. So that's pretty much the gist of it. And the water and gas guys also, they've picked up, I think 3, he said 3 new services in the last couple weeks. So that's good news. So if you guys have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
All right.
Thanks, Jesse. Okay, we'll move on to ordinances.
Okay, the first for your consideration is Bill number 2022-51, an ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission supplemental agreement to the Airport Aid Agreement.
So I know there's been a lot of paperwork come through with this airport grant, but the last thing we did was the utility agreement, and before that was the engineering agreement. And so now this is the agreement with the state where they're actually committing to a threshold of $738,019 for grant funds for us. And this is that's just them renewing. We did all the initial paperwork back in 2020 when we got the grant initially to do the apron, and they gave us $64,000. Now this is to do this whole larger project, and now they're renewing this with that new number of the 738.
Any questions? Not, do I have a motion to approve?
I move to approve bill number 2022-51.
Motion's been made, do I have a second? Second. Motion's made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Is that, we need to read that the second time, please.
So, bill number 2022-51 for second reading, an ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a Missouri Highways and Transportation Commission supplemental agreement to the Airport Aid Agreement.
Do I have a motion to approve second reading?
I'll move to approve bill number 2022-51, second read.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Next is bill number 2022-52, an ordinance calling for the general election for the year of 2023, setting the date and time thereof, specifying polling places, appointing judges of election, specifying officers to be elected, providing filing date for candidates, providing for publication of notice of election, and general provisions.
This is just our annual ordinance, and this year, of course, the 2 positions are just all organic positions for Ward 1 and Ward 2.
Motion to approve?
Move to approve 2022-52.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried.
Next is bill number 2022-53. It would be an ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a development agreement with Rocky Top Acres LLC. And so, if you look at that ordinance and look at the document that's on your table, that's got a lot of yellow on it, this would be the proposed development agreement. There is one draft, more recent than this, I believe. It just has a couple of minor changes to it, but basically, Mr. Gosen is working on his project there, which as of tonight is east of town, which everybody anticipates will be part of town here soon. He's going through the same process that we just dealt with Mr. Hammer, where he has filed a petition for voluntary annexation. And so that's making it through the hoops. Mr. Gosen was interested in getting to work on the extension of utilities so that the construction of his building would not be slowed down, is my understanding. And so the gist of this development agreement is to lay out exactly what the city's going to be doing in terms of extending water and electric and other utilities. And then also, it provides that Mr. Gosen would pay $80,000 whenever this agreement is signed. And then there's going to be another $15,000 due at the time of delivery of a larger capacity transformer, which I understand has been ordered, but they take a long time to get in. So just so that neither Mr. Gosen nor the city is sort of sticking their neck out or assuming risk by doing work before getting paid, or getting paid or paying before getting work, it was just the understanding was put on paper, so to speak. So, is Don with us
Yes,
here?
Don is on Zoom.
Oh, okay. I hear Don is on Zoom. Don, if you have anything to add to that.
Can you all hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thanks for letting me join. I'm out of town, so thanks for letting me join via Zoom. And yes, we're, my wife and I are hoping to have the property annexed into the city of Hermann. And frankly, it's, our utility demands for this new expansion of our distillery are going to be fairly great. Would have been unable to meet those utility demands with any other source other than the city of Hermann. And as we continue to develop this property, I see, not that we're going to try to piecemeal changes here and there, but we've got a lot of things going on there. And so at this point, the main production facility is what we'd like have brought into the city of Hermann.
Very good. Anybody have any questions for Mr. Cruz? You all good?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
And maybe Dave needs to answer it. Under the agricultural section of our ordinance, it says that if you want to be annexed under the agricultural zoning, you have to have 10 acres. It's my understanding that the acreage that Mr. Gosen's going to want to annex before you, the Board of Aldermen, is only almost 6 acres, 593 or something. Is that going to be a problem?
What is the surrounding property?
The surrounding property, everything around us is all, I believe, agriculture, except for Roy and Mary Struff's house. The entire Deerberg or the Hermann farm is agriculture. All our property is currently agriculture with Gasconade County.
Yeah, the part of the Hermann farm that's already in city limits, that's adjacent to you, is zoned agriculture, right?
Right.
Correct.
Yeah, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. What that 10-acre rule was meant to address was to not have little islands of 3-acre quote-unquote agricultural properties pop up or be annexed in. You know, if the Deerberg property was zoned something else, I don't know what it could be, but if it was zoned residential or commercial, and then you wanted to come in as ag and you only had 6 acres, well, it might be a different story, but.
That, I just wanted to make sure
Yeah.
that that was addressed. Okay, thank you.
No, I think we're good. Jim, do you wanna?
I got some questions, not necessarily at Don, but I made some notes here is, based upon the utilities going in, who's gonna be liable for maintenance on those?
They'll be our lines.
They'll be,
The city.
Yeah, they'll be the city's lines.
why would they be the city's line?
Well, because primary electric is all you can run over that distance, like you could never run secondary that distance.
Yeah, but how about water, sewer?
So
Sewer's
the
not
sewer's
done.
already done. He already put in his own sewer
You
line.
got water?
The water main,
Gas.
the main purpose for that is we're doing this all in one ditch. So I don't really want 10 years from now, if that water line would break, which is gonna be highly unlikely since it's gonna be HDPE. But I don't want just anybody digging there, because we're gonna have a high pressure natural gas line, and we're gonna also have primary electrical conduits in the same trench. So by doing this, you know, in-house, doing this all in one shot, we're saving input costs for him. And then, like I say, we have to assume that ditch anyway for the primary electric. And the natural gas will be able to be taken off of later. And again, you know, any tap he would make off there later, if he puts in another building for his own use, you know, that would be another water meter at that point. So.
The reason I ask is I, as a property owner, been told that it's my cost to hire a private person to install from my house to the main.
Correct.
This is the same thing.
But this isn't the same thing.
It's from the baseline or the main connection.
From the transformer, correct. So like the transformer is gonna be the end point for our ownership. He will take possession of that power at the transformer.
Yeah, these utilities are going, what is it, to a spot generally
approximately,
50 feet
yeah.
northeast of.
Yeah.
We're running.
He's gonna have to connect to that.
Yeah, he'll have to connect to those points. And then the natural gas, like any natural gas service, will actually go all the way to the building. And the meter set will be on the building. So.
I was concerned about that because I have to pay for
Well,
mine.
and he is paying for it. That's where the $80,000 plus the $15,000 for the transformers come in. He's paying for the installation of all
So
of this.
we're gonna be responsible for any leakage, breakage
Correct,
from that point forward.
correct.
Don't want any surprises.
Right, yeah, we will
There again,
absolutely,
if our property breaks a line, it's on us to fix.
correct.
So we're treating people differently.
Well, I'm treating the utilities as one batch of utilities going up a ditch. And again, it is a water main, it's not a water service. So his meter will be at the distillery. If he puts another building up there, say he wants to build a pavilion that he wants to put bathrooms in. If he doesn't want to run his own water line from his existing service over to that pavilion, he'll have another water meter and another fee attached to that. So these will be our utilities. And that's why we have to have an easement and everything. But, I mean, this is not untypical. If we, like Terry Hammer's place on Hermann Hill, for example, we have electric going all through there that's primary that we maintain. That's not abnormal. The water mains and stuff through there, I'm not 100% sure on, but I know the electric. Natural gas, kind of the same thing. We go to the building, but the customer pays that input cost. So, and that's what we're doing here. And we've figured in labor, we've figured in equipment, we've figured in everything to this cost. So there's no something for nothing here.
Then one other, you kind of answered that. I mean, I agree with that 100%, but anyhow, it's understandable. To do this, and Attorney Tricia, whoever's well informed with our MIRMA, if we go out to start, I think the idea is to get started before bad weather. So if our city employees, our city equipment takes on the duty as for hire outside contractor to work on private property, which we are until it gets annexed into the city, will our MERMA insurance cover any liability injury that may occur during that installation?
So we're not really being an outside contractor, we're working on our own system. We're extending our own system. So that's not any different than like if the natural gas guys go to Farber. You know, we own that natural gas line all the way to Farber. So when they go out of town and they do work on this stuff, we're still working on our own system.
On private property at this time.
Right, but we do that in Farber, that's not the city of Hermann.
Well, yeah, we're not the city of Farber. What I'm just saying is, I know my neighbor had to put in new, but she had to hire a private contractor. The city doesn't cover on that property.
For a service.
Now we're breaking that also, and does our MERMA insurance cover our employees, our equipment on private property?
He's still gonna be putting in his own service.
But we have to run it from the main,
Correct.
Hawthorne Street.
We're gonna have a
underneath the
tab.
state highway up to 1,300 feet.
Which
I
he's
think.
paying for all.
Which he's paying that.
Correct.
But my concern is in case of an injury, equipment break, are we covered by insurance?
I think it has more to do with the fact that they're working for the city, rather than that they're not on city property. You know, they're working as a city employee,
On an easement,
being
too.
instructed by the city to do it, so I'm pretty confident in that they'd be okay.
And that was just a concern.
Yeah, we have other customers that are out of town already. And we do work out of the city limits on our system, and we're covered.
Okay,
So-
I mean, that was a concern is if, God forbid, something
Yeah,
happens.
let's just hope nothing happens. Let's go with that too. I just assume nobody gets hurt.
Would we be covered by insurance because we don't need a large 6 or 7 digit lawsuit coming about?
Fully agree.
I have one question, I'm thinking about all this. What if you, I don't know, hit rock or something happens and the cost goes up, will
So-
Mr. Gosen take care of that?
The saving grace here is that we're gonna go up the road that Don just had built, which is entirely filled.
Okay.
So, and we're only gonna be going about 4 feet deep. So the odds of us getting into rock are extraordinarily low. I figured some time in for the excavator and the breaker in case. So I feel like we'd be covered if we do, but I do not anticipate that.
Thank you.
So do we see that stimulate another thought, that is a private driveway, correct? From
Correct.
100, because another concern I had is if down the road we decide, well, that's an extension of East Second Street, so now the city has to come back and dig it up, put down base and asphalt it, provide snow removal.
Yeah, that's no part of this agreement. This agreement is strictly us digging the ditch, filling it in, and we get a utility easement. There's no road maintenance included or anything like that. In fact, I think it's specifically excluded, so.
Okay, anybody else? If not, Don, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
No, I mean, anybody, I'm glad to answer any questions anyone has. I think it's, for the most part, pretty straightforward, what we're trying to do. And, you know, I guess that's pretty much it.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, do I have a motion?
Thank you.
Move to approve bill number 2022-53.
I have a motion to approve. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Thank you.
We need to do it again so that they can get started.
We need to read it second time. Yes, ma'am.
Bill number 2022-53 for second reading, an ordinance authorizing and directing the execution of a development agreement with Rocky Top Acres LLC.
Do I have a motion to approve second reading?
I move to approve bill number 2022-53, second read.
Motion's been made. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Very good.
On to resolutions, there is one, number 1327. A resolution to approve and adopt a revised pay schedule for the city's police department.
Any discussion? not, do I have a motion to approve the resolution?
Make a motion to approve resolution?
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Okay, old business. Anybody have any old business? Any new business? We'll move to,
Question, maybe I was not listening, but did we skip over ordinance 2022-52 for the election? Normally I check it off, I didn't get that one.
No, we did.
We got it.
Okay.
We get it.
yeah, we did that.
My bad.
No problem. Okay, now we're moving to motions. Motion to approve the minutes from our last meeting.
I move to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Invoices for payment, we have motion to pay the bills.
I move we pay those bills.
We have a motion to pay the bills, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Hire Kelsey Mariano for administrative assistant position. This is a position we've been trying to fill for a year and a half or so. Any questions? If not, have a motion to hire Kelsey.
I move to approve hiring Kelsey Mariano for administrative assistant.
Motion been made, do I have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Outdoor seating permit renewal for Dotsy Slush, Nicholas and Brittany Renfro, 222 East First Street.
I have a question on that. I thought we voted to extend their outdoor seating. I know they haven't completed it yet. Does that include that?
I think the question, because I'm not sure that, I don't know if they have that completed yet. I
don't.
haven't seen the status of it,
Yeah,
so.
I have.
So are we approving that too, or just the original?
So the way they told me was that they had no changes to what they were doing. I would have to look at my file on the other one.
Yeah, because under drawing, it just says proposed patio on the backside of it.
Yeah.
So it doesn't include the,
So I'm saying it doesn't include it at this point.
I wasn't aware of it.
We voted on that
They
a
went
while
before
back.
landmarks on it too, is what
And planning
what's
and
going in my
zoning.
mind.
And I thought we approved it.
Planning and zoning?
No, they went before landmarks on it, I think, because they had to show if they were building an alleyway there.
That was the facade, I think, on that.
I would say if they didn't change, they said not to change anything, so I'd say we're voting on what they provided us, and then if they
Right.
would have amended, they're gonna have to come back.
it's an outdoor seating area, which is based upon the 12-foot right-of-way of the city
And it's,
sidewalk.
like I say, that's the drawing, because
Yeah.
it says,
So the breezeway wouldn't be needing outdoor seating permit.
a motion
To approve.
Motion to approve, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Reappoint Mike Walton to the Board of Adjustment.
I move to approve Mike.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Municipal Quick Claims Deed, Donald James and Stanley Kalmeyer, Lot 48, 50, 52 on East 11th, Lot 47, 49, 51 on East 12th Street. Any questions on that one?
What's
Understand.
this for, Trish?
This is just one of those formalities to clean up the chain of title.
I have a motion to approve.
I'll move to approve the municipal quick claim deed.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Special event application for the Arts Council Lantern Parade, Riverfront Park Pavilion and streets on the east side of town, November 25th, 2022 at 6 p.m.
I move to approve the lantern parade.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Yes.
Motion made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion's been made, do I have a second?
Second?
Motion's made and second, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carried. Thank you, everyone. Thanksgiving. That's coming up.